Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Over the past couple of weeks, I've heaped a lot of praise on the movie Dune, and I stand by those comments. I truly believe that it's one of the best films to come out this year for many reasons. The biggest reason that I mentioned was because I saw the passion that shined through in the final product. I could tell that Denis V actually cared about this project, and that's rare in this day and age. It seems more often than not that people these days just create films for a paycheck, and it shows in the final product.
That is one big pile of shit.
Films in the modern era oftentimes lack sophistication or depth. They are produced like Saturday morning cartoons where they're designed to give you immediate satisfaction. Of course, at the most basic level. Denis V talked about this a little bit when he was promoting Dune on a podcast for the playlist. But the most telling part of the entire interview was when the subject of Star Wars was brought up. It's a very delicate thing to talk about Star Wars because everything will be dissected. And I will say that I was a big Star Wars fan. The first two Star Wars movies, that being A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, were by far movies that had the biggest impact on me when I was a young man. They are probably one of the reasons I'm a filmmaker now. I've always believed that A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back were the two best Star Wars movies ever made, by far. And they still are to this day. They also had a huge influence on me personally, and they fueled my creativity as a young man.
Damn right, that's the only way I work, Cap.
He goes on to say that his love of Star Wars is what actually made him become a fan of Dune, just like I suspected, even bringing up the fact that George Lucas himself was heavily influenced by Dune when creating Star Wars. So this kind of creates this full circle moment where creative minds are influencing other creative minds through many generations. He also talked about how he values the idea of taking science fiction seriously, which again I can appreciate because it seems like today most things in cinema are not taken seriously.
Ha ha, very funny, motherfucker!
But this is where the quotes get good and where I gained even more respect for him. Ironically, people will probably crucify him for the same statements that I'm praising him for. He said, end quote, "There was something in The Empire Strikes Back, in its darkness, in the way it was approaching the psychological path of Luke Skywalker. And I just feel like they, that being the Star Wars movies, lost that after. They lost that elegance."
Check out the big brain on Brad. You're a smart motherfucker, that's right.
Now, as expected, people are taking this in many different ways. I already seen people getting upset because this can be taken as a jab at The Return of the Jedi, or a jab at the prequels as well, and there's also a handful of people who actually enjoy the sequels that could also take offense to this. But I'm actually here to tell you right now that he's 100% correct. Now, of course, I love Return of the Jedi, and there are some very dark and iconic moments in that movie. But I believe George Lucas himself has admitted to adding elements to that movie to make it more commercial. The most notable example of that would, of course, be the Ewoks. Now, I personally don't have a problem with that concept, and it didn't ruin the movie for me at all. But as far as what Denis V is trying to say here, this totally confirms it. I've always believed that Star Wars peaked with The Empire Strikes Back. It's the most well-made and deep and philosophical story told in this universe to date. There's a reason that if you ask people what their favorite Star Wars movie is, 9 times out of 10 they're going to say The Empire Strikes Back.
Besides that, it's on the reflexes.
And it wasn't afraid to go in bold new directions without stepping on what came before. That movie, quite frankly, could have backfired, but it didn't, because George Lucas at the time had the right group of people around him to bring that story to life. Listen, there's things that I like or even love about the prequels, but those films feel like amusement park rides at their core. It was all about the technology and the CGI, again lending itself to Star Wars losing its elegance. And then you have the sequel trilogy, which is not only an abomination of cinema, but those movies and the people making them completely misunderstood what people like about Star Wars in the first place. There's no tact with these movies, there's no nuance. They are all Star Wars in name only. Denis V is 100% justified in what he said here, and if you can't respect his opinion, then I don't know what to tell you. If you have a problem with this, then I'm not sure that you understand what good filmmaking is. Elegance is everything. Elegance can make your fictional world seem that much more special. Elegance shows that you care about what you're creating. That to me is why Dune works, and that to me is why the original Star Wars trilogy works.
That makes sense.
Moving forward, we have news that Patty Jenkins' upcoming Star Wars movie, Rogue Squadron, is being delayed indefinitely by Lucasfilm. The film was basically being described as Top Gun in space, but now, according to The Hollywood Reporter, it's being delayed due to scheduling conflicts with director Patty Jenkins, saying, quote, Jenkins' schedule and other commitments will not allow for the window needed to make the movie in 2022.
No shit.
Hey, here's an idea. Maybe don't set a December 2023 release date before you even have a script completed. Maybe for a change you allow a filmmaker to have the appropriate amount of time to create the movie that they want to make, instead of rushing through the process just to meet a release date. That's how creativity works. These stories should form naturally through the creative process. Maybe the reason you've been unable to make a good Star Wars movie is because you're worried about all the wrong things.
Get what you fucking deserve!
Let's be honest, I don't have an issue with Patty Jenkins per se. Sure, Wonder Woman 1984 did leave something to be desired, but the elephant in the room is this. No one with standards or knowledge of this franchise is asking for yet another Disney-produced Star Wars film. You see, they think they're just going to apply Rogue One logic to this movie and it's going to bring everyone back. But you see, this time you don't have Darth Vader to lean on in some scenes. Just stop, this franchise is dead, nobody cares about it like they used to, and Lucasfilm has no one to blame but themselves.
Take a big step back and literally fuck your own face!
You've already shown a blatant disregard for the lore that was established before you owned the property, so why would we think that this movie is going to be any different? Maybe you should inject some elegance into this franchise, instead of whoring it out as much as you possibly can. And then maybe, just maybe, people will learn to respect it again.
I love rumors. Facts can be so misleading. Were rumors true or false are often revealing.
So now there's a rumor floating around the internet, and it's just that, so take it with a grain of salt, that Gina Carano may possibly be returning to The Mandalorian. Now, she's had a lot of people come out in her defense, including Jon Favreau, so I guess it would make sense that they would at least be thinking about the possibility of bringing her back. Now, I could care less personally about The Mandalorian. I think it's a vastly overrated show, and I honestly thought that Cara Dune was pretty much a nothing character. So this isn't coming from a fan perspective, because I'm not one.
Fuck me, right?
And if in fact she does end up returning, it doesn't change my opinion about this show at all. Or about Disney and Lucasfilm for that matter. The big reveal here is that if this ends up being true, it's a big win for people who are anti-cancel culture, like myself. In my opinion, what she says or does in her personal time should have no impact on her employment status. Especially when it's something as ridiculous as a bad analogy.
Let's gut the freaking nerd.
Now, if you kill someone or do someone wrong in some type of way that actually causes harm to them, then yes, I would understand it. If she says something that you do not agree with, that does not constitute a good reason for you to get her fired. And I'm sorry, but if you believe that that is the correct way to handle this situation, then you are a hypocrite. Now, if you look at it from the business perspective, people have argued that Disney should not allow someone like her on their payroll. So Disney, in effect, bent the knee and fired her to appease these people. Mind you, these are probably people who don't even like Star Wars to begin with anyway. If they do bring her back though, it's very telling because it actually creates a situation where it looks like Disney is choosing money over the supposed moral high ground opinions that are on Twitter. The truth is that Disney doesn't need any more bad press. They have enough of that on their own. This is them trying to put a band-aid on a gaping wound. They are literally trying to stop the bleeding because no one cares about Star Wars anymore because of the things that they've done.
I ain't got time to bleed.
So they are possibly bringing back Gina Carano. They made a show for Boba Fett. They made a show for Obi-Wan. Everything that they're doing is just screaming them trying to make up for their piss-poor management of this franchise. They are starting to realize, without publicly admitting it, that their actions over the past few years have been very divisive and have split the fan base in two. They are realizing that it would be more profitable for them to give the fans what they want. Unfortunately for them, at least for a lot of us, it's too little too late. Because if you're anything like me, you've already checked out, and no amount of pandering and trying to get my good graces again is going to bring me back into the fold. My money is too precious, and I refuse to hand it over to someone who does not respect me.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
So let me know what you thought about all this in the comments down below. As always, please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and I'll see you next time right here on Real Shift. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Y'all be cool. Right on.